It's Friday, September 10th, and you, my friend, are listening to The Drive. Catherine, how are you doing? Catherine, I got to ask you a question. I'm not even going to ask how you're doing. I got to ask you a serious question, and all the mom and dads out there, I can relate to this question. I know it varies across the world, but for you, your kiddies went back to school this week for the first time in forever. How are you doing? Are you okay? Is the house a little empty? Are you walking around and just throwing stuff down because you don't have to worry about role modeling for them now? Are you eating right out of the fridge because again they won't catch you? Like, what's going on?
Well, hey, how are you doing? Nice to see you again and be here, part of this show. Bear with me with my voice. It's sad. I know in Canada, this has been the week where all schools are going slowly back into in-person, classes, which is something, as you alluded before, something we haven't had in a very long time, potentially a full year. Like they started last year, went for 2 weeks, sent back home. December, I think they tried again, didn't work, sent back home. So I'm very sad because I'm that type of mom that I like having them close to me. But I'm very happy because I also want and need my space. So it's that, in between, torn, like super happy, super sad, more than anything really crossing my fingers so that they get to go a lot more than a month this time around and hopefully the full year. We go back into the conversation on mental health. And for kids, that is a huge reality that most parents don't want to see. And of course, we don't even know how to deal with, but it's there. And it all just starts with that lack of ability to socialize with other kids. So looking forward, I'll keep you posted. Maybe I would need to take a day off or two to kind of get back on my feet. I don't know. We'll see.
I think you heard her here, folks. She's already lobbying to say, I need some personal time off, Daryl, because this is too traumatic and stressful, and I can't really focus on getting you numbers. Okay, we're back. We were gone for 3 weeks, took a little hiatus. I missed you guys. I really missed you. Catherine's back. She's been gone even longer than the 3 weeks. We had Ollie, I think, co-hosted with me for a little bit there. So it's like September. It's September and we're back and let's do this. Let's get into it. The first thing we always talk about on The Drive is the road ahead. And the road ahead is kind of cool. We have one event we want to talk about that's coming up soon. It's coming up on the 15th, I believe. I'm looking, yes, September 15th at 2 p.m. Eastern time. All right, so that's 11 a.m. on the west coast of the U.S. of A. and Canada. That's 7 p.m., I believe, in Europe, and 8 p.m. in some of the more Eastern European locations. So all listenable intentionally, and you got to listen to this event that's going on. I'm going to tell you about right now. It's a webinar, okay? I know, it's another webinar, okay? But this one's a really different, fun webinar. Catherine, I don't know if you know this. This one is the state of cold sales outreach. Not the state of sales. It's not, how are the numbers doing this quarter? It's the state of cold.
Yep.
Cold sales outreach, from email to phone to social, and it's what to expect in 2022. So let me get the context around this, Catherine, then I want to get your reaction. We're literally taking one expert in each of the three main channels. So we got Victor Antonio. I believe he's going to be our cold calling expert. We got Bryn Tillman. I believe she's obviously our social selling expert. And then we've got Sam McKenna. Show me you know me, Sam. And she's going to be our email expert. And then we bookend it. I start the show. Sean Finder ends the show. So this is going to be an extended show. This is not going to be 1 hour. I'm telling you now. Probably going to be like an hour and a half. And we ask the questions. Well, it's not me because the host, it's not me. The host is actually our good friend, our rant master, Ollie Whitfield. And Ollie asks really awkward questions. I don't know which one question he's going to ask because he created a list of questions for each of them, and then I created a list of questions for each of them, and then we compared notes. And the whole point of this was to ask the questions that nobody else would ask because it was rude, it was impolite, it was improper, it was unacceptable. We are going to ask those questions, and it's really about cold outreach. So now, Catherine, it's September. We're the push for Q3. Then you got Q4 to end the year out. Your whole team is focused on this. What do you think of this whole premise of asking really hard, impolite, rude, abrupt, taboo questions of the experts when it comes to cold outreach? Because I know you are pushing your team nonstop to do a lot of cold outreach as part of their own account and territory development.
Yeah, and it's part of our reality as sales people, right? Like you, obviously, the big push right now is like, oh, use content, use your, social posting and presence to warm up your leads and such. But at the end of the day, we all have to do cold calling, cold outreach at any given time. So this is loaded. That's going to be a loaded event. I really like the fact that you are having 3 huge experts in each of their matters, but still, at the end of the day, amazing, rounded sales people. So they will also be able to complement each other, for example, in any other, channel of communication that might not be the one that they have been aligned into, to actually give more insights and provide more meat, right? Like more actually usable, applicable tips for everyone that comes to it. And the fact, obviously, you know me, Daryl, like those tough questions are the ones that I like the most because everyone talks about how easy it is to do this or how you should be following that. But actually doing it is very hard. And that's where the real questions should pop up. So this is a must, watch or listen to webinar. Definitely want to keep in the library. So for anyone that is not able to attend the live session, I strongly suggest that you still sign up so that you can get the recording because I'm assuming that's going to be available. Maybe I'm kind of overstepping on that, but this is definitely one of those that you want to have it in the back, in your little library of content to get back to.
One of the things I should mention here is that this event is being partnered by a boatload of other partners. It's a significant event, right? So I believe at last count, there's 7 other firms sponsoring this conversation. So that tells you something. Anyway, check it out on the 15th. You can probably find it on the AutoClose website, autoclose.com. Maybe you can find it on Ollie's Twitter feed. Who knows? But check it out. That's it. That's the road ahead. Let's move into money. All right. So interesting. So we got this little company called Rattle. I actually quite like the name. My wife wouldn't because my wife has an absolute fear of snakes. So I know when she would see the word rattle, she'll think rattlesnake. So yet I have another friend who just literally on the weekend had a baby girl. She's adorable. And he and his wife, baby's new mama, have got every single modern toy going to make this baby, electronic, motorized, artificial intelligence cradles and car seats and everything else. It's scary. So when I would say Rattle to him, he would think, oh, baby Rattle. But anyway, the name is Rattle. They just raised almost $3 million, $2.8 million. And this is for an initial round from Lightspeed and Sequoia. And it's all about modernizing the enterprise sales stack. Now, Catherine, I wish our good friend Evan was here. And for those who don't know, Evan runs our RevOps team. But Catherine and I and Evan have spent some time together, much time together in the last 2 weeks as we coordinate our push into the end of the year. And there's a big tie-in between, obviously revenue operations and sales. And part of that's making sure the systems all work together. And it's a big push because Catherine's team needs to make sure they have all the answers and the insights that they need in real time. Similarly, though, we want to make sure that when there's inquiries or things that are important, that Catherine's team responds to it fast, which is where RevOps comes in. Well, Catherine, we should have known about Rattle because Rattle is a really interesting premise. All right. So let me just frame the conversation for you. Then I'm going to get your reaction. So I'm taking right from this. This is an article I'm reading from TechCrunch. Rattle is building a real-time and collaborative connectivity tissue, quote unquote, tissue, to address the siloed nature of modern record keeping and intelligence platforms. So like Salesforce.com could be an intelligence platform. And so they give an example. So to use Salesforce as an example, you're using it for two things. One, you're writing data into Salesforce, and then you're taking data out of it. So what Rattle does is it enables you to send all the insights from Salesforce into a messaging platform. By the way, pro tip, the messaging platform is Slack. And then lets you write the data from within the messaging service back into Salesforce. All right, so let me see. Rattle's use case extends to even more services. It can recognize phone calls and prompt individuals to log that and pursue that opportunity on Slack. So one of the things, Catherine, I know you've lamented about, your reps have lamented about, is you don't find Salesforce the most intuitive. They're always missing steps. They're not doing the data. But if they can do it within Slack, be notified within Slack, and this is not unlike perhaps a little bit what Dooley is doing. This kind of feels like a little modern version of Zapier, a young version of Zapier, which is a middleware. But right now, Salesforce and Slack to start. The reps get to live in Slack. And then then that just goes back and forth to Salesforce in real time. So they've got they got over 50 customers. They started, if I got this right, they started offering this product in March. So 6 months ago, they already have a 70% conversion rate from enterprises who test run it. And they have over 50 customers, and that includes Terminus, Olive, Litmus, Imply, and Parsley. And they got a quote here from a company, an ops manager. So there you go. Our own Evan at LogDNA says our lead response times, which is the number one thing we talk about, Catherine's smiling, which is when a new lead comes in, how fast do you actually respond to it, has gone down by 75%. And key processes, that's a do lead play, have sped up from days to minutes. So there you go. Catherine, that's Rattle. What do you think? Are they fixing a problem? Is this a crowded space? Are there other solutions? What?
So we go back to the whole premise of why these are coming out, right? This is just trying to minimize the admin work, for lack of a better expression, that comes from all sales reps trying to keep their data up to date, trying to, keep a close eye on follow-ups, not missing any opportunity, conversation, touch as they go, right? Salesforce, we know that does become a little less of that supportive system when it's talking about prospecting. So when you are in that early stage of your deal, of your relationship, where you need to be more intense, Salesforce misses a little bit of that. I like that you compared this one with Dooley. However, I see them slightly different just because of where they sit, right? So this one is already going to where right now people are communicating the most. Us, right, is an example. And you know that for me was a huge adjustment when I came on board, because everything is discussed and shared over Slack. I'm that old school that I'm like email, and then you do the follow-up and the recap. Here, everything is on Slack. And if you go out there to the real world as well, you get to see that people, communities, and companies are using that channel more and more often. These guys are going there already, right? So, hey, if you're already talking to your company and you're keeping a close eye on Slack, then why don't you have your conversations and get Slack as well working on your favor to be on top of your deals, your connections, your opportunities from Salesforce? So I like it. It would be interesting, though, the setup, to be honest with you, and this is kind of my RevOps hat and the conversations that we've had, because Salesforce is pretty sensitive in that front and complex, right? So the objects and the connection and the way that you capture it and where it's going, and that would be interesting to see the flexibility that it brings onto the table at the end of the day. But this is good because it's amazing just because, again, Salesforce keeps on positioning themselves as the CRM leading the market. And then now they acquired Slack, and so now they want to push as well with their brand another very successful, almost everywhere to be found tool, which is Slack. So interesting, and definitely monopolizing the entire cycle.
I just find it amazing how, I remember my first major marketing job was with a database company. We eventually got acquired by Sybase, at the time the sixth largest software company. They're now owned by SAP. But Sybase's biggest business was both enterprise database, and middleware. And then you had more resurgence of multiple companies doing that. Companies like Tibco, massive valuations. The list went on. Middleware has been an issue for 30 to 40 years, ever since, computers came along, it seems. And here we are in the year late 2021, and there's another company raising more money, do the same thing, and using, instead of their own custom middleware, which is how it used to be, they're using somebody else's platform who they have no control over, which is Slack. And all Slack would need to do is, basically stop them from letting them do it, and then they'd have no business. And yet, despite that, they got almost $3 million. So it shows you the pain. The pain is real. That's good. Speaking of what's real, check out the investment that Vista Equity did is very real. They have just acquired a majority stake, and I love this, SaaS startup. Kids, they're not a startup. They've been around for a while now. Drift. Drift, Drift. That annoying little robot that comes on your screen on almost every single website. That's largely, Drift came with a big, ferocity, and they captured that market, even though it's been around for forever. They did an amazing job. They are now a unicorn. But what's really interesting is this: they took a majority stake, but neither party would disclose the amount of the investment or Drift's new valuation. So interesting. And I look at Drift, and this is a conversation I've had for about the last year myself. I think we brought it up here before. Drift was like on fire. They were the belle of the ball. Everybody had to have Drift. They were high flying. They raised a lot of money. I think they raised over $107 million between Sequoia and CRV and General Catalyst. So they were founded in 2015. So they are 6 years old. That's not a startup anymore, folks. They do have over 50,000 customers. They're trying to expand their footprint, and then they just kind of disappeared. And I think it all kind of happened around the time when Dave Gerhardt, their CMO, and so David Cancel, the CEO, and Dave Gerhardt became the faces of the company. And then Dave Gerhardt left to go pursue another opportunity at a company he'd been at before, which is weird. You never leave a hot ride when you've got it. But he left, which says to me, and I said this publicly, something's going on that we don't know about. And then recently, Gerhardt mentioned that he came back to Drift, basically as their primary evangelist. And then days later, this was announced. Timing coincidental? Perhaps. But it seems to me that I bet you Vista Equity wanted him there as part of the overall thing, because Vista Equity is trying to actually create a number of companies to come together. What do we got here? I'm reading the article again on TechCrunch. They're pulling together a whole bunch of companies. They got a plan. I don't know what they most recently invested $242 million to acquire a minority stake in Vena, which is a Canadian company focused on corporate performance management. They have over $77 billion in assets. So these guys are heavy hitters. So they can invest almost $250 million to get a minority interest in the company. And they got Drift, got a majority interest in this company. And there's some serious cash taking place here, but I find it so interesting that they didn't announce the terms, which makes me wonder, did they get a good deal on the company for reasons we don't know? I don't know, but it feels like a little bit of drama is not being shared here. Anyway, Catherine, what do you think about this?
Well.
I love that. Well, here we go. Sit back, kids.
So one thing I do want to highlight about all these, and maybe it's part of their marketing, their PR, whatever you want to call it, but David was very clear when he made the announcement. We don't want the distraction to go towards the value. We want the distraction or the attention to go towards the huge accomplishment of this being a company that was created by two Latinos, and they are a unicorn right now, which is rarely ever a thing, which impacts the things that they've been doing and the initiatives that as an organization they've been establishing most recently in the last couple of years, right? A lot of diversity, a lot of inclusion, how to make sure that they are empowering others, cultural wise, gender wise, you call it, right? Like they are looking to position themselves as a lot more than just a tech solution, which I love. And I think it should definitely have something in the back on how things have happened. They've focused in that presence a lot. They've, increased their marketing and everything around it. Their investment internally, apparently they have a lot of initiatives to encourage on that front. So that's kind of my first take at it, is like, awesome, right? We know how many Latinos there are in the US, so now they are empowering them to keep on following their dreams, and they want to make a change. They want to have an impact in that social aspect. So that is amazing. And then obviously with this investment and how things are going, from the interview as well that they did to David, he says that they're looking for that focus now, right? Like how are they really positioning, I guess, in that solution space while they keep on pursuing that social impact space. So it's going to be interesting. I love it. I'm super excited for them. David and Elias, I really admire these two. They're Latinos. Their story on how they came to the U.S. and stuff, it's extremely interesting. And how they've been able to accomplish everything they have is just outstanding. So it's interesting they didn't release the number, as you mentioned. I want to stick to the story on we want the whole world to focus on the accomplishment as a cultural background situation rather than a number attached conversation.
So I hear you, and you are 100% right on celebrating that accomplishment, that success, and that is not to be missed. But I'll still cry BS when they say, don't look at the number, look at this. They're just saying, we don't want you looking over here, so we're going to show you this funny thing over here.
Totally.
They say, isn't this great? We're distracting you. So I just want to know what's going on. That's me. But you are 1,000% right, which I never say with Catherine because it will bite me in the butt.
Sure.
But she's right.
I'm glad this is being recorded, by the way.
It's being recorded. This is a success story. So congratulations to the folks there at Drift. That's looking forward to seeing what the next chapter is. Moving on, it's time for corporate affairs. All right, let's go fast and furious now, Catherine. We got the first one up is SalesLoft. SalesLoft has completely rebranded. And here's the thing. They're changing not only their messaging and their positioning, but they change their colors. And I'm telling you, as a marketer myself, when you change your colors, you're sending a message. So they could have stuck with their blues, which are very established. They changed their logo. They're still SalesLoft, but everything's changed. Fonts changed. Everything's changed. So this is a very loud statement to the market that we are no longer the sales engagement vendor. This is a market that we're now this, which is the modern revenue workspace. This is dramatic. Now, they've spent a boatload on a very cool, almost inspirational, values-centric video on their homepage. I love it and how it's written. It didn't hook me. I didn't go, oh my gosh, because of that video, I want to buy SalesLoft. But I respected what they were saying. They spent clearly a chunk of change on this video. Anybody's produced these videos before and paid for them and know what's involved and actually, how the money goes up. Oh, you want more than one actor? Or you want outside sets? Or you want multiple cameras? It goes on and on and on and on. So you see the video. It's very well done. I really like the video. But it's even their tagline, the new way to sell. It's time to tell a different story about sales. They are shifting dramatically. So it's two things I would I want to get Catherine's opinion on. I want to get Catherine's opinion on, before I do that, let me frame it for the audience. The modern revenue workspace is simply saying, they're trying to say it's more than just sales engagement, right? They're saying they have a lot of other features that the modern sales rep would need. It's all in one platform, and they have for different, they have stuff for the sales leaders, the sales manager, sales ops, SDRs, BDRs, account exec, marketing leaders, etc. And they talk about you got to manage your cadence, which is sales engagement. You got to manage your conversations. You got to manage your deals, opportunity management. You got to measure and report. So that's really the premise of what they're saying. That's the new messaging. So I want to get Catherine's reaction on what do you think of the messaging, the modern revenue workspace, and what do you think of the statement they're sending to the marketplace with such a dramatic shift? What does this mean? I will preface it before I pass control over to say, I think what they're doing here is they're saying, we're not outreach. Stop lumping us in with them. We're our own gig. And I think they're doing this to position themselves for their own IPO. And they even allude to that a little bit. That's my think. I think this is a move to say we're not outreach. That's what I think it is. But go ahead, Catherine, what do you think?
You touch it right there by the end. You wrap it up really nice. Really nicely, you're really nice, whatever. So anywho, you are right, spot on. I'm not a marketeer. I don't claim to be a marketeer, but I am audience and I am very, driven by the brand. These kind of changes are bold. Like it's a statement, and people might say it's just the color, it's just the font, it's nothing. It is a lot. They are really breaking everything that has happened up until then. And now they are clearly saying, and they are going obviously with the message, the video, every single communication that's coming out. This is the new era. And we are expanding. And we are not just one link in the chain. We're actually going broader. We're here for sales as a business unit rather than just the engagement side of it. And I like what you said at the end, because obviously everyone just has sales, love, and outreach sitting right there. Like they are the same thing for many people out there. And both of the companies, curiosity, how do you say that? Interestingly enough, have been making those changes recently, because we know that outreach as well has been expanding into their offerings and what they do. So it'll be interesting to see how much or how far can these two get apart from each other, from being kind of put in that same spot, and how they get to finally differentiate each other, maybe to cover more territory or just to have their unique presence in the market. So this one is a huge statement these guys are delivering, and we'll see how that goes.
Stay tuned, folks. I'm interested in what's going on. I'm interested to see what goes on there too. Mm-hmm. But I think we've talked about this already. We're seeing massive investment. We're seeing massive roll-ups and acquisitions. Gartner calls it the alpha platform. We're seeing a lot of equity players get involved now, like you saw with Drift, and they're not the only ones, of course. So there's definite, this space is, the next year or two, it's going to be nuts. We're in the middle of the hurricane. Stay tuned. All right. Next up, we'll keep this short and sweet. Freshworks. So there's an interesting company. Freshworks has just filed to IPO at $400 million. It's actually $380 million. They're just rounding up. And ARR growing at an incredible 49%. It's one of the first wave of India, US-based global hybrid SaaS companies to IPO. So that's pretty cool. The question I would ask is how much bigger can they actually go? The space they're in, they're basically a CRM for the SMB space. And their emphasis, of course, is on the service side and the IT side, the support, etc. But they do the whole thing. You're in a space with Salesforce.com, HubSpot now. Salesforce.com clearly left their roots years ago, decade ago, more, and they've gone upstream. HubSpot definitely doing the same thing. They began the same way. It's a cheap solution. They're going upstream. You're seeing the same thing here. You're seeing Freshworks has their average client is generating roughly 5,000 ARR a year. So that's less than $500 a month. So that tells you something. But they've got over 50,000 customers. They've got they have 13,000 of those 50,000 customers. 13,000 of them are over 5,000 a month. So and their CEO's got a 97% rating on Glassdoor. It's a $120 billion market that they're playing here, which is rather large. But if you look down at the numbers, the reason they're having success and the reason their growth is so high from where they were a few years ago is because they've been moving upstream. again. So more to the medium size and then eventually enterprise. So that's going to be a big play there. But hey, hats off to them on that. I wouldn't have expected another CRM success story like this. But Catherine, I mean, this just tells me that the two things: A, you need a CRM. You just need it. And B, the SMB market continues to kick ass, and too many people are ignoring it. And what Freshworks is showing you is that you can build a really, really good business on the SMB market.
I agree with you 100%. SMB will never go away. If anything, it has grown tremendously. And these are people that need easy to use solutions, which we all know how Salesforce requires actually knowledge in creating the environment, because it's just way too big, to kind of deal with and set it up in the right way. And two, the pricing level as well becomes a huge player. Of course, no one wants to talk about going into market with a price battle, but at the end of the day, it comes down to it. And so if you're going smaller companies, you need to just be easier to use and more accessible for their pocket. And these guys also cover a bit of more space as well in terms of the rounded solution that they can provide those clients with. So I think there's still a lot of space. I mean, like Salesforce, yes, it's top number one. No one will ever surpass them, really, if we're honest. But there's a lot of people that are just against them. And that's it. That's where these folks come into play.
That you nailed it. You absolutely nailed it. All right, let's move it on to water cooler talk. We're getting ready to do Ollie's rant. But the interesting thing here on the water cooler talk is two things we wanted to hit up specifically. One, we just wanted to get your feedback. Curious if you've had any experience. We are currently Chorus users, quite like Chorus. It's a robust product. It's time for a renewal. Gong is coming hard at us. Nice product there too. Have you switched from Chorus to Gong or Gong to Chorus? What's your feedback been as you've done that? My RevOps and sales team would like to know. Let's have that conversation. Send us your thoughts. We'll share it back next week. Next up, a great fact from Jason. Let me see. Was it Jason Lemkin? I always get his. Yeah, Jason Lemkin. Yeah. He was saying that the average public SaaS company has 33,000 customers. Average public mid-market SaaS company is 12,000 customers. So basically, in the end, what you're saying is if you want to IPO, you need to have a boatload of customers. That's just interesting. I can see why a lot of companies just sell out because it's just faster and easier. And I think that money move on to the next project. Not unlike David Cancel. I'm not saying he sold out. I'm saying he's taken some investment. But if I recall right, Cancel, this is his fourth or fifth time doing it. So there you go. Nice repeatable model. I'm pretty sure his retirement is taken care of. Just throwing it out there. Okay. With that said, let's listen to Ollie's rant. Catherine, I really want to get your reaction on this one today. Ollie, what's on your mind?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Ollie here, back with the rant this week. It's been a while since I've done this, so I'm excited to get stuck into this. So this week, I'm a bit upset. I look at LinkedIn a lot, and it's mainly because I like to learn from specific people that I follow. But like we all know, I've been drowning in loads of crappy content. It's all the obvious basic stuff that almost has no place being posted, but it gets engagement, so people do it for the sake of it. I hate that. But anyways, what bothers me is we talk all the time about use your salespeople, post on your LinkedIn profile, build your personal brand. But when I post something useful, or at least I think it is, thoughtful, practical, tactical, it bombs. Nothing happens, right? And I've joined a program. Lots of people are posting about it. It's called Brand 30. It's a guy called Andrew who has built this brand awareness thing, like a course where you post every single day for 30 days and allegedly you carry on from that. People are doing it and, they're posting a lot of obvious stuff from it, which is fine, each to their own. But, if I have to put all of this work in just to get a little bit of love from LinkedIn, I mean, seriously, and we're still asking sales reps to be posting on LinkedIn, saying what a missed opportunity that it is if they're not posting. Well, I mean, I'm struggling to get some level of engagement at all. And I don't care too much about it. It's not a vanity metric, but it's got to be worth doing if something happens. But if nothing happens, what is the point? So I'm frustrated. What do you guys think?
Okay, Catherine, there you had it. Ollie's rant. He's back to LinkedIn. He's back to the posting. He's talking about what are sales reps supposed to do. Okay, this is your forte. You are the leader of the sales crew here at VanillaSoft. How do you respond to Ollie?
I get it. I totally get it. And that's where we go back into those metrics and mental toughness at the end of the day, right? That ability, that resilience, ability to, you're posting, you're committed, you're on it, you're still not getting engagement, it's out of your control. What are you going to do? Are you going to just rely on the fact that one day your audience will see it and see the value of it? What's your approach to the social selling or the social sharing at the end of the day? What really matters for you, right? Why are you doing it? We go back to that why, right? Why are you even posting? Are you posting because you just want to have 1,000 likes? We've talked about it. Likes don't really validate that you're adding value, that you're sharing anything interesting. Obviously, there are these folks that have their business going and obviously have that traction and so have as well already reached the network of others. And now we go into those, not a pod necessarily, but that endorsement that boosts the algorithm and gets things going. It's really hard because at the end of the day, it's a computer, and having the right logic behind it to have a balance on who to boost and who to not show and stuff. I mean, like it's impossible. Why are you posting? Why are you doing it? Are you doing it because you just want to have people giving you likes, or because you want to expand your network, or because you just want to share your knowledge? And then that'll take you for the next level. But it is frustrating, and for our reps, it's difficult because most of them are just young folks that if they post and get no one to say that they like it, that affects their motivation. But it's part of growing up, and it's part of just, being tough. And we're in sales, so we need to be tough.
All right. I'll be the old guy here, the old guy with the white hair, and I'm going to come down on Ollie. Ollie, do you know that the average tradesperson, when getting their paperwork, will have apprenticeships that typically last anywhere from 3 to 7 years before they're professionals? You're whining about having to do something for 30 days and getting little engagement. Be a pro, step up, commit to the cause. Anything good long-term takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of investment. After all, if you're going to be a professional, especially in sales, that's what you got to do. Too many sales cycles. Sales cycles can last 6 months, 9 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years to get the deal to close. Did they give up after 30 days, 45 days, 60 days? No, it's the process. Commit to the process. We're all busy looking for shortcuts, and I say it's kicking us in the ass. Commit to the process. But there we go. It's just a rant. And we're just giving its opinions. There's no value here other than you get to hear Catherine and I have different points of view. And you get to hear Ollie in his lovely accent. Check it out. Hey, if you want to talk about Ollie, we're going to wrap it up here, Catherine, bring it full circle. We opened the show talking about the week ahead, and it was the state of cold sales outreach. Ollie's got a wonderful tweet. You can follow him on Twitter at Ollie Whitfield _ Do that at Ollie Whitfield _ or just go to the autoclose.com website, autoclose with a K, not a C. That's Catherine. I'm Daryl. You have just heard another edition on September 10th of The Drive.
Bye. Have a great weekend.